Welcome to a discussion on marketing E and M banking. That's electronic and mobile banking. Given that it is so inherently attractive, why do we need to market E and M banking at all? Well, first of all, E and M banking is a relatively new concept and consumer awareness is low regarding E and M banking. Providers must explain the value proposition to customers extensively to create awareness and facilitate adoption and use. Secondly, electronic and mobile banking is a new method for delivering financial services, very different from traditional methods. Customer trust, even amongst the educated, is low at the beginning. Reaching the customers through various marketing and awareness building efforts and with the right message is essential to win trust and to create consumer confidence. Building trust is even more important for consumers and communities who have been deceived or have had bad experience with other financial service providers, often informal service providers. Thirdly, E&M banking, by need and design, is a technology-intensive method of delivering financial services. Consumers used to traditional branch-based banking find it hard to understand, try, and trust the new technology. Often the technology employed is used for service delivery by lightly trained agents who are not qualified bankers. Marketing and awareness building assists these agents too. They learn to use technology well and can be better equipped to create trust amongst customers. Fourth, with the growing popularity of E&M banking services, some consumers have many choices, particularly, for example, in East Africa. So the best and innovative methods of marketing will decide the leaders and the laggards. Attracting and retaining talent is also critical in a competitive environment and is aided through marketing. There are many challenges associated with marketing E&M banking services. Firstly, choosing the most effective medium for marketing. Options include print, electronic, one-on-one meetings, SMSs, and so on. The target segment, age group, geography, product features, cost effectiveness, and so on determine the use of a particular media. Second, frequency of campaigns. E&M banking institutions must decide on the timing and intensity of marketing efforts, depending on the stage of its products and services and the rollout of these products and services. And thirdly, choice of the right value proposition. The value proposition must be specific and simple so that customers understand the offering and can relate it to them to meet their needs. For example, M-Pesa's message of send money home was developed on the basis of extensive market research and was perfect for the Kenyan market. Blind replication of the same campaign in Ghana, for example, flopped. Next, consumer education. As customer awareness level of these banking models is low, innovative models to convey the right value proposition at the right time will be an important element. This will also help faster adoption by customers. Next, choice of right customer service delivery modes, for example, via agents or SMSs or call centers. E&M banking organizations must decide on the best, most convenient and cost-effective way to service customers. And finally, marketing effectiveness. Whereas sustained marketing efforts are required, their direct, tangible impact in terms of customer acquisition, usage, revenue growth, etc., is much more difficult to measure. There are cost-benefit analyses of marketing spends that must be implemented, but to do so is a constant challenge. GSMA produced this excellent framework for thinking about marketing mobile money, and Yasmina will expand on it further. The first layer highlights the importance of conducting detailed market research analysis, The bottom layer describes the customer's journey from being completely unaware of E&M banking through to using it regularly. And the middle layer looks at some of the marketing and communications that help the customer make that journey to regular use. Let's look at market analysis. First, competitive landscaping. To develop a marketing strategy, understanding the services that potential customers use is of utmost importance. Understanding the strengths and weaknesses of other available options will help in positioning the E&M banking products better. This requires detailed market research, both secondary and indeed primary. Second, segmentation. After understanding the competition, identifying the consumers is the next important step. Focus should be on defining their profiles and characteristics, grouping or segmenting them, and understanding the details of each segment's requirements. And finally, target marketing selection and positioning. The next step is to identify the priority or target markets where the E&M banking solution provider will focus. At the launch of E&M banking solutions, this is often on migrants or those with needs to make remittances or other regular payments over distance. Finally, the providers adopt multiple communication mechanisms to position the services based on consumer needs and preferences, and they also reinforce this through the delivery channels. The customer's journey runs through, first of all, awareness and understanding. At this stage, the customer becomes aware of the E&M banking service. Awareness campaigns must build understanding to help users see how this new service is both relevant and beneficial to them. Then, knowledge. Awareness translates to knowledge for customers who are willing to avail the service and want to become more familiar with the specifics. This typically requires a process of education carried out by agents, peer users, or through marketing efforts. And then finally, trial and regular use. The customer is now aware of the product and understands its usefulness. To drive customer adoption, providers must guide and facilitate customers on a journey from their first encounter with E&M banking to regular adoption and use of the services. CGAP prepared this useful analysis of the role of different components of an E&M banking system in making the customer's journey to regular use as smooth and rapid as possible. It is important to note that traditional marketing is but a small part of the overall mix. As we have discussed in previous webinars in this series, the agent network, the quality of customer service, the sign-up and transaction processes, and the user interface will also dictate the user experience. And of course, the stability of the IT platform as well plays a key role. Thus, it is essential to adopt what we at Microsave refer to as a strategic marketing approach to support development and rollout of E&M banking services. This approach encompasses three strands: corporate brand, product, and customer service. We will examine these in the following slides. A good brand enables or aids the following. 1. Instant recognition, which helps customers know what to expect and what to ask for when seeking services. 2. Credibility, which enhances consumers' belief in the organization. 3. Warranty, which allows the organization to send a strong message about the reliability and quality of the service offered. 4. Goodwill creates support from customers to manage through future issues and problems. 5. Word-of-mouth marketing, which encourages customers to recall and recommend the service. And 6. Differentiation, which makes a well-branded E&M banking service stand out amongst the competition. Most organizations offering E&M banking solutions are well-known banks or mobile network operators with highly recognized and trusted brands. This provides a valuable foundation. Where third-party agent network managers are delivering the services, they need to leverage these brands. Where the brands involved are weak, the E&M banking solution often struggles, as we have seen with Wizit and its tie-up with the little-known Bank of Athens in South Africa. Local retail stores carried the new M-Pesa brand into urban and rural communities. The stores are immediately recognizable as they are painted Safaricom green with a prominent M-Pesa logo. Today, with over 23,000 outlets, the M-Pesa brand has become omnipresent. Once a customer enters any store, the experience is consistent. This has been achieved through significant in-store training and active and frequent agent supervision. Thus, the brand promise is supported by customer service. There are 4 components of the product marketing strategy. Product development, which enables and should typically be based on differentiation. Product branding, which involves the development and communication of a unique selling proposition and taglines to support it. Product sales, involving both push and pull marketing with a variety of promotion strategies. And finally, product performance and enhancement to extend the life of the product. Product development and differentiation is the process of continually and systematically assessing needs of the market and its different segments and providing product offerings to meet those needs on a profitable and sustainable basis. This necessarily involves a systematic product development process, starting with market research to develop product concepts, testing these concepts with the target market to refine them into prototypes, and pilot testing those product prototypes. This process took well over a year with M-Pesa. Product branding becomes particularly important when there is little differentiation in product attributes, for example with remittance products. A tagline is the positioning nugget that describes the way in which the E&M banking service provider wants the customer to remember the product easily. For example, Telenor Easy Paisa of Pakistan has the tagline that says, "Easy Paisa, bring change in your life easily." Unique selling proposition is the difference that makes the difference to a customer. The TV commercial of Telenor's Easy Paisa focuses on the ease of deposit and withdrawal of money using mobile phones. The USP of Easy Paisa is transacting through the mobile phone is the easiest way. On the pull strategy, advertising is essential. The message should get the audience attention, generate interest, stimulate desire for the product and service, and give clear instructions on the action to be taken. This is known as the IDA principle. A well-designed public relations campaign can also help achieve profile and credibility. And then finally, sales promotions are often time-bound. For example, open a mobile account before December 31st and we will waive the opening fees. Activity-based, bring in 5 new customers and we will give you a discount of 50% on transaction fees for the next 20 transactions. Or segment-focused, special offer for students, 50% discount on M-banking account opening fees. A combination of these will be the pull strategy for your product sales. However, with all these above-the-line pull strategies, they are only important to heighten awareness and build trust. Real sales will generally be affected by below-the-line, on-the-ground presence. Agents are usually the first line of marketing in both acquisition and use of services, because Many customers do not have access to traditional marketing media, such as televisions and newspapers. Agents are usually long-standing members of the community who are trusted. Also, many E&M banking interventions have very small marketing budgets, and below-the-line types of marketing carried out at or near the agent locations is usually more cost-effective. Also, E&M banking is complicated business and may take several visits and interactions to convince customers to adopt. And finally, agents, of course, can become the first points for customer service and share their own experiences. There is a very close relationship between product marketing and financial education. Indeed, in the context of E&M banking, they are hard to differentiate. E&M banking service providers need to educate customers to generate awareness and trust on product features and benefits, to help customers clearly understand the products, services on offer, and to appreciate their benefits or value proposition. And education also helps differentiate untrustworthy offerings. On processes and use, to enable customers to understand processes to be followed, appreciate risks and comprehend the safeguards, and learn to use the relevant technology, for example, generating and remembering PINs. And finally, tariffs and prices, to enable customers to understand the tariffs and how price is computed. This enables transparency and protection for the poor customers and can indeed help prevent frauds. Now, though it may seem contradictory, financial education is not necessarily what customers need. They need practical, proven, knowledge-based ideas based on experiential learning. Learning through peers and word of mouth plays an important role in spreading financial education amongst poor illiterate customers, which is why customer service is so important. Customer service is key to effective marketing of E&M banking services. Good service helps retain customers, helps cross-sell products, helps build word-of-mouth business, and can help overcome competitive disadvantages. The cost of acquiring a new customer is high. It can be recovered only when the customer becomes a repeat, long-term customer and offers an opportunity to cross-sell. Once again, agents are the first line of customer service. Agents see customers each day, help them fill out account opening forms, make calls to call center on the customer's behalf, and teach customers how to use services. Agents must therefore be well informed about products and services. They need to be trained. They need to be well behaved and supported by an efficient customer service system, including an excellent call center. They also need to be encouraged and even provided incentives to offer customer support, and should be measured against customer satisfaction targets. And finally, they should be monitored on a regular basis through the MIS, through call center complaints, field observations, and customer interviews. Failure to deliver quality customer service can result in 1. Customer churn. If customers do not receive satisfactory service, be it transaction errors, queries, disputes, or denial of service, the probability of the customer moving to another service provider or simply not using mobile money is high. 2. Cost of attracting new clients. If there is poor word of mouth in the market as a result of poor customer service, the cost of attracting new clients will escalate significantly. 3. Loss of image. A strong brand image is vital to retain customers, drive volumes, and benefit from marketing and sales efforts. Poor customer service can lead to loss of reputation and, in turn, to loss of business. 4. Loss of business. There are various consequences of customer service lead to direct business loss or indirect loss, which impacts growth or increases operational costs. Poor service, therefore, invariably results in institutions paying a heavy price. Now, there are many things that can be done to improve customer service. The challenge is to identify which will yield the highest impact at the lowest cost. This involves understanding which elements of customer service really matter to customers and addressing these on a priority basis. We at Microsave use this framework to do this. The framework provides a step-by-step logical approach to understanding customer service and its role within the institution's overall business strategy. Identifying customer pain points, assessing the cost of addressing these pain points, and identifying those that offer best value for money, and then executing and monitoring a new customer service strategy, thus completing the loop. Optimizing customer service is necessarily an iterative, unending process. Marketing mobile money requires more than just high-profile advertising campaigns. It requires a strategic marketing approach that combines the power of a recognized brand to build trust, high-quality products that respond to real needs backed by product marketing and education, largely delivered below the line, typically by agents, and finally, outstanding customer service to drive word-of-mouth referral. Next up, we have Yasmina McCarty from GSMA, who has led a great deal of the thought and indeed experimentation around marketing E&M banking. And we're very grateful that Yasmina has agreed to join us on this webinar. Yasmina, over to you.
Thank you, Graham, for that presentation. My name is Yasmina McCarty, and I work at the GSMA on the Mobile Money for the Unbanked program. We work with mobile network operators around the world on their mobile money deployments, helping them address some of the challenges they face when it comes to scaling mobile money. Today I'd like to talk to you about some of the challenges we see, specifically when it comes to marketing mobile money and driving customer usage. I'd also like to try and highlight some of the best practices that have emerged from mobile network operators as they address some of these challenges. As a starting point, I'd like to give you an overview of the industry today when it comes to mobile money. In 2011, the GSMA conducted a survey, and we had responses from 52 mobile money deployments in Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, and Asia. According to that survey, we counted 60 million registered mobile money customers. 11 mobile money services had more than 1 million registered customers. However, when it comes to customer activation, we see a much greater challenge. The survey counted only 6 million customers as active, if we exclude Safaricom and Smart. On this slide, you can see individual mobile money deployments, and in one color, the line of the number of active customer accounts they have, and in the other color, the number of registered customer accounts. As you can see, there's extreme variability between mobile money deployments and also within mobile money deployments with active customers versus registered customers. So how as an industry do we deal with the reality of low customer activity when it comes to mobile money? And what are the key challenges that are driving this behavior? The first challenge I'd like to talk about is the challenge of market segmentation. What we see with mobile money deployments is that operators are often reticent to speak to just one consumer group because they want mobile money to be a product for everyone. Indeed, mobile money platforms and services are ultimately accessible by anyone, and over time we have seen that they truly can become mass products. However, at the starting point, when you're trying to develop that early adopter base to grow your mobile money service, we've seen that demonstrating just one specific use case of mobile money for one specific target market creates the most compelling marketing and has the most effective results when it comes to driving customer usage. Who should be that priority target market? It's not necessarily workers who need to send money home. It may or may not be. But what you're really looking for is a sizable volume of transactions, a customer group who regularly is moving money and the amount of the transactions is sizable. Secondly, that target market at launch should be frustrated with their current options. A scan of the landscape and looking at the competitive options is essential to determining which customer segments are most frustrated and have the highest pain point with their current options, and have a pain point that your mobile money service can address. I'd like to give a case study from M-Pesa. I know M-Pesa is often talked about in the world of mobile money, and this advertisement perhaps has been seen one too many times, but I think it exhibits the point well when we talk about market selection. When Safaricom launched, their target market was urban male migrant workers who were sending money home, in this case from urban Nairobi to other parts of Kenya, more rural areas. In 2007, when M-Pesa was launched, there was estimated to be no more than 3 million Kenyans, or approximately 14% of the adult population, who met this criteria. So by all accounts, a relatively small number of individuals and a relatively small customer segment. However, these individuals were frequent in their transactions and were also frustrated with their current option, making them an optimal target market to launch with. Of course, as we all know now, today, M-Pesa boasts more than 18 million registered users using the service, and indeed, Safaricom M-Pesa product has penetrated the majority of Kenyan households. This example exhibits the point that starting with one specific use case of mobile money targeted at one specific target market creates more compelling marketing, targets a group of early adopters, and enables your product and service to get that starting point to, over time, eventually massify. The second challenge I want to talk about today when it comes to marketing mobile money is the customer journey. Unlike many other products and services, we see that mobile money itself has a customer journey that is both complicated and relatively long. At the starting point on the left-hand side of your screen, we see customers who are unaware, who have never heard of mobile money. The end point where we want to drive the customer is to regular use, where the customer is habitually using the mobile money service. What needs to happen in between for that regular use to become a reality? First is awareness. The customer needs to have heard of mobile money and approximately know what it does. In many markets where we all operate, mobile money remains a completely novel and nascent concept. Some explanation is necessary to introduce this new technology to the customer. The second important step is understanding. In this, the customer needs to go beyond the level of awareness and actually understand how mobile money could be useful to them. What we know from many technology marketing efforts is that however cool the technology might be is not enough to actually drive usage. The reason customers use new technology is not because it's new or because it's novelty, but rather because it actually solves the problem that they have. In this understanding stage, it's crucial that the customer actually understands why and how mobile money could benefit them. The final important step is actual knowledge about how the mobile money service works. Customers need to know the steps which are necessary to transact, and they need to understand what they have to do to initiate and receive transactions. It is only after awareness, understanding, and knowledge has been built that actual trial will happen. And the first use for the customer, the first experience, is crucial to converting them into regular use. It is the positive experience that the customer may have when they first try the product that will lead to the habitual use. To illustrate this example of the customer journey, I would like to take you through a story of MTN Uganda and our program Mobile Money for the Unbanked. In April 2011, we conducted customer research in Uganda to understand what barriers existed to customer activation. In particular, we wanted to understand non-users, who were then further segmented by priority potential customers, as well as inactive users. And we wanted to understand why those non-users had never signed up and why inactive users had registered but failed to use the service. We were looking specifically at the customer journey, awareness, understanding, and knowledge, to try and understand where customers were getting stuck or bogged down. The customer research found that indeed in the case of Uganda, the non-users and the inactives were very aware of the service. They had seen advertisements, either ATL, they had been exposed to BTL promotions, and they had heard about the service through word of mouth from friends and family. Furthermore, both the non-users and the inactives had a very clear understanding of the purpose of the service. They said, yes, the mobile money service is fast and an easy way to send and receive money. They knew also that it was a cheaper way to transact compared to the banks in Uganda. They liked that you could save money when you bought airtime with the service. And they also knew that beyond P2P payments, you could also use utility bill payments like water bills. However, when it came to the knowledge area, that's where it seemed customers were bogged down. There was a real lack of knowledge on how mobile money actually worked. Customers had questions like, what is digital money? What does the agent have to do for a transaction? What does the operator actually do on the back end to ensure the transaction goes smooth? What does the consumer need to do to initiate the transaction or to receive someone else's transaction? And most importantly, what happens if the transaction goes wrong? Is there recourse? Who do you talk to? We have two direct quotes for our customers on the bottom of the slide. On the left-hand side is from a low-income individual who had never used the service before. And they said, I do not trust the service because I do not know how the money will reach the other person. On the right-hand side, we have a small businessman from a rural area who said, here in the Deep Village, not many people know much about the service, so they should sensitize us more on how it works. You can see in this particular case of MTN Uganda that customers' concern and lack of knowledge about how the mobile money concept worked had led to issues of trust, and that in turn had led them to not register for the service and or not use the service. Understanding the customer journey with your particular customers and at what stage they're at helps you to build the right marketing strategy to compel users along that journey. The third area I want to talk about is what kind of marketing mix is required to drive mobile money usage. And not surprisingly, we see that a bespoke marketing mix is necessary and that the standard marketing approach that has been used perhaps for airtime or other core businesses of a mobile network operator do not prove adequate when it comes to mobile money. To build the awareness of what mobile money is and the understanding of how mobile money can help the individual customer, above the line is typically what we see mobile network operators use. This could be television, it may be outdoor, either in the form of billboards or buses, or it may even be radio. The exact ATL activity that's chosen depends on what's the best way in your market to reach your target market selection. However, ATL needs to work much, much harder when it comes to mobile money. If we look at airtime, for example, typically operators who use ATL to promote airtime sell the brand, or they sell an image or a lifestyle perhaps, or they may just compete on price. When it comes to ATL for mobile money, it has to explain both what mobile money is and why is it relevant to the consumer. So the ATL messaging is more in-depth and needs to paint a much deeper story than the type of messaging telcos are used to using. When it comes to building knowledge and generating that actual trial of the mobile money product, we see below-the-line activities, or BTL, being employed much more widely. This may be in the form of the actual transactional agents. These are the mobile money agents who are available to perform mobile money transactions. In some cases, the agents have been trained on how to educate the customer, and they may also be incentivized on customer registrations. In other cases, we see mobile network operators turning to teams of field agents who can actually go out into the streets and or the rural areas and compel customers to sign up for the service, sometimes also educating them about what the service is. Finally, we see friends and family and their word of mouth being a very important driver to customer usage. Indeed, many times it is the customer actually signing up thanks to a friend or a family member recommending the service to them. How do we make successful BTL tactics that will truly generate trial and not just registrations? That comes down to the incentives. What we see with core GSM activities, or sales of a SIM, for example, is that telcos use incentives and promotions to sell the airtime. They give some kind of incentive out to the agent for registering a customer or selling a SIM, and then they launch some kind of promotion to get customers to sign up to either buy that SIM or buy airtime. So we see incentives and promotions closely linked as a way to drive airtime usage or new customer acquisition for the GSM business. However, when it comes to mobile money, using this type of incentive schemes and promotions will only result in registered but inactive customers. You can see a graph on the left side of your screen, and here we have registered customers in the blue line and active customers in the red line. And this is the case of one particular MNO who was very effective at registering customers but struggled to get customer activity and customer usage over time. In this particular case, it cost them approximately $2 each time they acquired one of those customers, meaning they had spent a lot of money on marketing and customer acquisition and failed to reap the rewards because those customers weren't transacting or generating any revenues for the customer. To make effective below-the-line activities, smart agent incentives are necessary. Increasingly, we see mobile network operators splitting up incentives around customer usage. What we often now see is that a transactional agent or a field agent will receive some amount for registering a customer and then receive a second amount for actual customer usage. In this way, it ensures that both field agents or transactional agents only receive the full benefit when you have an active customer rather than just a registered customer. So putting it all together, when we look at the bespoke marketing mix required for mobile money, we see that to build the awareness of what mobile money is and to drive the understanding of why mobile money is beneficial to the consumer, MNOs are typically turning to above-the-line promotions like TV, outdoor, or radio, but very cognizant of the fact that that particular messaging that's utilized in the above-the-line communications needs to be clearly targeted to one target segment and needs to have hard-hitting messaging that delivers both on awareness and understanding. When it comes to actually building that final step of knowledge on how the mobile money product works and educating the consumer on how to conduct a transaction, as well as compelling them to actually try the first transaction, we see mobile network operators turning to below-the-line activities such as field agents, transactional agents, or word-of-mouth promotions. When it comes to actual regular use and encouraging the consumer to continue using the mobile money service, we have less examples, but the few that we've seen are in the form of either direct marketing, where there's SMS campaigns going out to consumers to remind them to continue using the service, or where there's actual promotions, like a lottery, for example, that the more times you transact on the mobile money platform, you'll be eligible to win something. The other thing we increasingly see is a diversified product mix, whereby the customer can make and conduct a more broad range of transactions, whether that be bill pay or whether that be products like microinsurance. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope that we've covered some of the key challenges that mobile network operators are facing when it comes to driving customer activity of mobile money. And I hope we've also been able to highlight some of the emerging best practice we've seen from our mobile network operators who are tackling these challenges every day and endeavoring to scale mobile money. Thank you.
We're now going to take a series of questions. Some of them were sent in before the webinar itself, and we'll start with those. And then we'll move to any that participants want to type in to the webinar system. So I'm going to basically read out some of the questions and then ask Yasmina to comment, and I will also do my best to make comments as well. So the first question we'll have a go at was, how best can a bank and an MNO strategy work in terms of marketing the product? Yasmina, do you want to start?
Thank you, Graham, and hello to those of you on the line. Thanks so much for your participation today and for submitting these questions. Our experience is much more with the mobile network operator and their approach to marketing. However, we recognize that many mobile money deployments do indeed happen in partnership between bank and MNO. So I think as a first starting point, it's quite important that the roles and responsibilities have been divided clearly between the M&O and the bank, and it's clearly delineated who has what responsibility when it comes to marketing. The second component that we would advocate quite strongly on our side is in any strategy work when it comes to mobile money, it's quite essential to actually do both a competitive landscape and a market segmentation. And it sounds quite simple, and of course I think we'd all nod our head to that statement, but it's surprising how rare this actually happens. It is important to map both informal and formal competitors when it comes to mobile money, and recognize that some of the informal options are not always as bad as they seem, and in some cases may have relatively satisfied customers, and there's a need to therefore understand how your product is going to be better than that existing service. When it comes to segmentation, I think both Graham and I touched on it in the presentations, but you need to find frustrated customers who actually have a need and a desire to move over to an improved product and service. And so that's what you're looking for a segment. You're looking for someone who's got relatively large volumes of money flowing through, because this is of course a transaction business and you want a cut of that. So you need to find those volume flows or volume drivers, and then you need to find people who are moving those kind of large amounts of money but are frustrated with their current approach to doing so. So that would be our view on the most critical components in developing your strategy for marketing the product.
Yeah, I mean, I have little to add to that beyond what I've already said in the webinar itself. We at Microsave, when we're working on this with clients, adopt what we call a strategic marketing approach. That means that we push on the brand as well as the product, and of course are very, very focused on customer service, because really, as Yasmina says in her journey, really the use of the trial and then regular use components are all dependent on that interface with agents and the quality of customer service that the user gets. And so I think that is tremendously important. Now, we've been doing work with a couple of banks as well as some MNOs on this, and I think in some respects banks have advantages and disadvantages. Banks have advantages in that they're recognized as a financial service provider, and they can also offer a broader range of products. So that gives you a broader set of options with which to present the client. Conversely, they tend to have smaller marketing budgets than MNOs, and if you look, for example, at what Safaricom did, while there was a lot of M-Pesa-specific above-the-line activity, there was a great deal of tagging M-Pesa onto Safaricom's core advertisements, above-the-line work. So, every single poster or TV ad or whatever that went out for Safaricom's core voice products also had the M-Pesa logo quite prominently featured in it. So I think banks have that disadvantage in that they're not doing that sort of level of high-profile marketing all the time in the way that MNOs tend to do. Okay, so let's go to the second question. The second one was quite general, and so Yasmina and I will sort of make it a little more specific as we go along. It was, what are the key drivers on communication in the mobile money industry? Yasmina, you want to have first bash at that?
I was hoping you to take the first go. It's such a broad question. It's hard to know where to come down on it. I mean, I think the frameworks that have been presented today do a great deal to talk about the importance and the differences in ATL and BTL. What we have seen with mobile money is your brand does matter. It's a financial service, and people need to trust this product. So I think the theme of trust will cut across any mobile money product or service. and that is typically done through ATL, and most times often requires a national presence as well, which of course points to a rather large budget, which obviously does pose a challenge to some services. But this is in part why we believe some of the third-party mobile money services have struggled, because it takes a fairly deep pockets to establish trust, and we do see trust. We do see trust as a pretty important driver for mobile money adoption. So I think that's one way I could answer the question. And then the second maybe point to add on is that you actually need a very deep level of understanding when it comes to mobile money. So not only do you need to trust the service, you need to understand how it benefits you, why you particularly should use it, and how you actually use it. So if we can think about those as some of the drivers, then yeah, I would say when it comes to marketing, you need to be able to get your customers trusting your product and having that deep understanding and knowledge of how to use your product.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And I suppose the only thing that I can add of any value is a particular obsession of mine, which is that I still think the industry has not thought through adequately the difference between what I would call cash-in, cash-out merchants and sales agents. So the communication that cash-in, cash-out merchants have to do is a lot simpler than the communication that sales agents need to do, because sales agents, particularly for bank-led models, should be selling a variety of products, whereas cash-in, cash-out merchants are simply doing that basic cash-in, cash-out transaction, and therefore have, at the point of customer interface, relatively simpler set of ideas and issues to communicate. But one of the things that I do think is tremendously important is that the mobile money solution provider crafts well-scripted answers to frequently asked questions, because in both the case of cash-in, cash-out merchants and indeed sales agents, there's a relatively limited number of questions that come time and time again. And if you've got every single agent making it up as they go along, you will have a very confused set of consumers who've received different messages. So for that core set of frequently asked questions, well-scripted responses, I think, are really important. Okay, so the next one is, what have been the best experiences to communicate with all parties involved, agent, point of sales, and consumers? Yasmina?
So I think the point I would like to make here is not on the exact tactics that you use, because I think we actually find the tactics will be relatively nuanced by type of deployment, company, entity, size of team, etc. The point I would like to make is that the question is indeed in part the answer. It is absolutely essential to have a high level of frequency of communication with all parties involved. Far too often we see marketing teams focus only on the consumers or only interested in marketing and promoting the service, but failing to recognize that your agent network also needs very frequent communication and ongoing tactics and relationship building. So I think whoever asked the question indeed provided part of the answer, which is that it is essential for mobile network operators and or banks and or third parties to have frequent communications, both outside the organization to the potential customers, to active customers who are already using your service but who you want to drive more frequent use, and to all your internal constituents, which in large part is your channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we've seen, particularly in India, agents who are given sort of half a day's training and then cut loose and, scarcely then see a representative from either the bank or the agent network manager, and really feel tremendously under-supported. And I think Yasmin is absolutely right. It's hugely important that we recognize that all agents are, in some respects, this sort of hybrid between our customer and our staff, if we're a mobile money solution provider. So it's actually really important to treat them in both ways. You know, when I talked about customer service, we also talk about channel service when we're working with our clients, and have a tool to look at specifically what we call channel and customer satisfaction measurement and management, because even if your customers are super happy, fully understand the product and want to use it, if the agents are super unhappy, they won't have the option of using it because the agents will simply go dormant. And so that regular communication with and support of your agent network is hugely important. Okay, so next we turn to another question, which is what incentives do subscribers of mobile money appreciate most? Yasmina?
So the word incentive here, I'm not sure what the original author intended for that. We have not seen good evidence that offering incentives drives healthy customer adoption. On the contrary, it seems to be that offering incentives drives registration, which then leads to inactivity. And so that throwing incentives out to get customers to sign up produces customers who aren't very good value for the deployment. And indeed, we have seen some operators try where you actually put money in a customer's account to try and get them to use the service. And in those cases, we've seen customers not even always using that money. So even when there's actually cash sitting in the bank, in the mobile money account, it may or may not produce activity. So I think we don't, there's no clear incentive that we have seen that pulls the customer, but rather it is the customer's own frustration and own lack of option or own dissatisfaction with current option that is the best driver to mobile money adoption and ultimately mobile money usage.
I think that's right. I'd just make a couple of supplementary comments on that, though. There are two incentives that I have seen work a little bit. The first is obviously the basic pricing incentive, so that if I am sending money to an unregistered user, I get to pay an additional fee. So I'm then going to push that unregistered user to register and sign up. And also, as the mobile money solution provider, I know that that customer is going to make a withdrawal, and hopefully that's not just a one-off transaction, but it's going to be a regular one, and therefore they will begin to get used to using that service. The second was that we've seen in Kenya, and I suspect this happens elsewhere, MNOs running competitions and then distributing the prize money, or indeed, in some cases, dividends to shareholders through the mobile money channel, so that the only way I can get my payout, whether from the competition or from the dividends, and some of these MNOs had very high-profile, share offerings. The only way I could get that money out was by actually cashing out using my mobile money account. And I think that is another way of driving usage. Okay, so the next question up was, can you give a budget spending estimation examples on mobile money marketing for small, medium, and large, open bracket, countrywide campaigns? And this echoes one of the written questions around how much has Safaricom spent. So, Yasmina?
This is certainly a favorite question that we hear from mobile network operators and other mobile money deployments, and everyone wants to know how much they need to spend. And of course, the next question is, how do you convince your CFO to approve that amount? It is unfortunately one of those questions that comes back with the answer of it depends. What we can definitely say is that it seems that mobile money services which are more successful have spent healthily on marketing. So that is the reality. It does seem to be the case that you need a ATL campaign at launch to build that brand awareness and to convince the market that you're serious and that you're trustworthy when it comes to financial services. And the reality is that ATL is expensive. It then also does seem to be the case that you need some type of BTL activities. It is possible that your transactional agents are able to do some of the consumer education work for you, but either you have to spend a lot to train them and keep checking up on them and supporting them in that effort, or you have to employ others to do those BTL tactics. But either way, it does not seem to be possible to get away without doing both ATL and BTL.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And the only thing that I would have to add to that is that in India, very often the banks have left the agent network managers to do a lot of the marketing and communication, and because they're relatively small organizations, they've gone straight for BTL only. And then it's a question of making sure that you analyze very carefully indeed the cost effectiveness or the return on investment of your marketing, specific lines of your marketing. And in fact, one of the written questions was how best to measure return on marketing investment, particularly in the context when people often sign up but don't transact. And this has always been a problem for marketing, and of course there isn't a super wonderfully clear answer. The way we've done it on a couple of occasions has been to phase the marketing inputs and then look at transactions after each of the marketing inputs. Now the other thing, of course, with your concern around dormancy is that if you particularly for below the line, you can actually segregate by area. So you can do one type of below the line in one area and another type of below the line, street theater or canopies or whatever in another area. And then you can compare not only the account sign up, but also then the level of activity on those accounts. And we, for example, in one case found that street theater drove a lot of sign up but next to no activity, whereas canopies, where you have people actually explaining the use of and how to use the mobile money solution, as well as signing them up, that created fewer sign-ups because for the same amount of investment, but of those sign-ups there were a much higher level of activity. So it's that sort of nuanced look at what's working, what isn't working, where am I getting most value for money, that I think is tremendously important. Either way, marketing mobile money is going to be expensive. The question is, how do you get the best returns on that significant investment?
Maybe one more thing, just to echo some of the key points that Graham has raised. I think he alluded to earlier, but the company launching mobile money services, whether it's a bank, a third party, or a telecom, needs to assess its own brand position in the market, and in particular needs to assess that against the target segment that it's planning to launch mobile money. So we have seen mobile money deployments who had a target market in mind where they didn't actually have already much existing traction. So in that case, obviously, your delta is much bigger in the task you have to do to establish your brand with that consumer group. Alternatively, if you are a brand that has always been about low cost and getting things cheaply, you also have a bit more work to do to actually establish trust and establish security around financial transactions. But if, on the other hand, you already have a group of people who always look to you for the newest innovation in the market and are sort of waiting with bated breath for new product launches, then your task may be a bit smaller. So that's another factor to consider versus the way the question was framed on market size. I would frame it much more on your current brand position.
Excellent. Okay, we're a little pushed for time, so I'm going to skip one or two questions and go to an interesting question. How can we best engage consumers or customers to switch from traditional ways of banking and adopt e-commerce channels? What do you think, Yasmina?
Graham, why don't you start this one, and I'll complement afterwards.
Okay, so, I mean, when we've been doing this, I have to say that we've started very much at the product end of things. So within my strategic marketing framework, we've focused primarily on the product component of this because it's our belief that one of the powers of mobile money is that not only can you create the convenience and access through the agent network, but also over time you can encourage self-service on the mobile phone. And now what do I mean by that? Well, if you do market research with poor people to analyze what they really want, very often disciplined saving services comes quite near the top of the list. They need to save up for example, school fees. And they find that very difficult to do so in a traditional banking setup, even if they have access to it, because the bank is distant and it's not easy just to go into the bank to make small and regular deposits. Whereas potentially it is easy to do that through agents. And indeed, if I'm being paid in digital money, I hope over time we'll see systems where I can, on my mobile phone, move money from the digital salary payment that I've just received into a specific earmarked savings account. Now, taking that step one stage further, it's not impossible to think of systems whereby I can then also, using my mobile phone, apply for emergency loans, either fully secured against savings or with a pre-scored credit rating with the bank, and then I could literally get almost instantaneous access to credit, which I can then go and cash out through a nearby agent. Now, those are quite valuable propositions for several segments. Although MNOs in particular start with distant payments, which is probably the easiest to start with, I think banks have an advantage in the long run because they'll be able to introduce some of those types of products as well. And so I think over time for banks, using mobile money to reduce their transaction costs has huge potential. And then we will be able to get beyond just payments and remittances to a full suite of financial services.
Thank you, Graham, for kicking that off. I wanted you to lead it because I know you've had so much experience working with some of the banks as well, which is not something we do as much. We tend to see in the projects we work on a lot more customers who have never done financial services or who have done them at a distance, signing up, and so we haven't seen that exact customer journey as what you've described, but that was very helpful. The one thing that I can say that we've seen very clearly is that people don't adopt technology, they adopt solutions. And whatever mobile money is going to be in your particular market, it has to solve something for individuals. It has to offer them something that's better than their alternatives, and it has to solve a genuine problem that they face. It's true in the West with other projects that the GSMA does on the mobile phone, and it's certainly true in emerging markets. You have to sell the solution, and people will migrate away from their current option when your solution is better than what they have. But it's not about the novelty of the technology.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've largely run out of time, and So I'll take this opportunity, if I may, to thank Yasmina again. We've been really privileged to have access to her wisdom and experience. And I thank all of you who've stuck with this, and I hope that it has been in some way useful. And I apologize for those people whose questions we didn't answer. We've tried to focus on the ones that have been focused on on marketing specifically. There are one or two other very interesting questions, but weren't terribly focused on marketing, so I'm afraid we've ducked them in the interest of time. Once again, many thanks to you all, and particularly to Yasmina and to Mobile Money Explained, and we hope to see you again in future webinars. Goodbye.